Check your car, Tim. The security camera feed showed my wife having sex with another man in our bed at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday while I was supposed to be hanging cabinet faces across town. I am Jack Mercer, 42, and I run a small custom carpentry shop out of my garage. It is not glamorous, but it covers the mortgage and keeps food on the table for my wife Nora and our 16-year-old daughter Ella. Or it did until I watched my marriage detonate in high definition on my laptop. "Dad, you look like you saw a ghost," Ella said as she walked into my workshop. I sat there frozen, staring at the evidence. "Just work stuff, sweetheart. Nothing to worry about." I snapped the lid of the laptop shut, my hands unsteady. "Shouldn't you be at soccer practice?" "Coach cancelled. Mom is not home yet, and I am starving. Can you make me a sandwich?" I nodded and followed her into the house. The same house where Nora had entertained her lover 3 hours earlier. The same bed where we had slept for 15 years. Where Ella used to curl up during thunderstorms. Where I held Nora through her father's cancer scare 2 years ago. The kitchen looked different now. Everything looked different. "Earth to Dad," Ella said, waving a hand in front of my face. "You are acting super weird." "Sorry, kiddo. Just thinking about a project." I opened the refrigerator, grateful for a chore. "Turkey and Swiss, okay?" "Perfect. Oh, and Mom texted. She is working late again. Some big HR thing at the office." Working late. Right. I had installed those cameras 3 weeks earlier, after our neighbor, Mrs. Novak, mentioned seeing unusual daytime activity around our place. I thought we might have a burglary problem. Turns out the only thing being robbed was my marriage. I built Ella's sandwich with mechanical precision, while my mind raced. The man in the video was Mark Doyle, Nora's co-worker from the division office. I had met him at company gatherings. Tall, gym fit, the kind of guy who wore designer cologne and bragged about his CrossFit times. The kind who tossed jokes about blue-collar guys like me. "Dad, you are drowning the bread in mustard." I looked down. She was right. I had been squeezing the bottle without thinking, lost in thoughts of payback. When Ella finished eating and went upstairs to do homework, I sat in my shop and started planning. I am good with my hands, good at building, good at taking things apart. Tonight, I would take my wife's perfect little world apart, piece by piece. First, I called my best friend Paul, who owns O'Grady's pub downtown. "Jack, what is going on, buddy?" "Paul, I need a favor. A big one." "Name it." "If anyone asks, I was at the bar tonight from 6 to closing." There was a pause. "Jack, what kind of trouble are you heading into?" "The kind where I catch my wife cheating and need an alibi for what comes next." "Jesus, you sure about this?" "I have it on video, crystal clear. That witch, I have your back, but do not do anything stupid. I am not going to hurt anyone, but I am going to make sure everyone knows exactly what Nora is." Next, I called Nora's parents. Margaret and Thomas Whitaker lived in the old Victorian on Linden Avenue, the one that had been in their family for 3 generations. Proper people, church every Sunday, the sort who still believed in vows and family honor. "Hello, Thomas. It is Jack. I need to talk to you and Margaret about something important. Can I come by tonight?" "Of course, son. Are you all right? You sound upset." "I will explain when I get there. And Thomas, you might want Margaret seated for this." At 7:30, I knocked on the Whitakers' front door, laptop bag in hand. Margaret answered, her silver hair set perfectly despite the hour. "Jack, dear, come in. Thomas is in the sitting room. Coffee?" "No, thank you. But you should both sit." We gathered in the formal room, all dark wood and family portraits. I set my laptop on the coffee table. "I installed security cameras at our house 3 weeks ago," I began. "I thought we might have a break-in. Instead, I found something else." I turned the screen toward them. This was recorded today at 2:47 p.m. I hit play. Margaret gasped and covered her mouth. Thomas's face went white, then red, then purple. "Turn it off," Margaret whispered. "Please, turn it off." I closed the lid. There is more. Hours of it. Different days. Thomas stood abruptly, fists clenched. That is our daughter. The daughter we raised to be decent. I am sorry you had to see it, I said, but I wanted you to know the truth before I do what comes next. What are you planning, Jack? Margaret asked through tears. I am going to make sure everyone knows. Her friends, her co-workers, everyone at church. I am going to destroy her reputation the same way she destroyed our marriage. Thomas nodded slowly. She made her bed. Now she can lie in it. With Mark Doyle, apparently, I said. The next morning, I put my plan in motion. I called my assistant, Ray, and told him I was taking a few days for a family emergency. Then I called Nora at work. Hey, honey, I said, forcing steady tone. Got a last-minute job in Phoenix. Big money, custom dining set for a tech executive. I will be gone until Friday. Oh, she said, trying to hide the lift in her voice. That is great. The extra money will help. Yeah, I am leaving this afternoon. Kiss Ella for me when she gets home from school. Of course, drive safe. I hung up and immediately called Mrs. Novak, our 70-year-old neighbor, who knew everyone's business and never minded sharing it. Mrs. Novak, it is Jack from next door. Oh, hello, dear. How are you? I am fine. I am going out of town for a few days on business. Could you keep an eye on the house and note any unusual activity? Of course, dear. I am always watching out for the neighborhood. Perfect, Mrs. Novak had better surveillance instincts than the FBI. I spent the rest of the day at O'Grady's, nursing a beer and waiting. At 4 o'clock, my phone buzzed with a text from Nora. Mark is coming over for dinner to discuss the Easton contract. Do not wait up when you reach Phoenix. The Easton contract? Sure. At 6, I parked 3 blocks from my place and cut through the woods behind our property. From the old oak in the backyard, I had a clean view of the bedroom window, the same tree where Ella's tire swing hung, where we carved our initials 20 years ago, when we were young and dumb and in love. At 7:15, Mark's silver BMW rolled into my driveway. He walked to my front door with a bottle of wine and a bouquet, my flowers for my wife, in my house. I pulled out my phone and called home. Nora picked up on the second ring. Hello? Hey, babe, just letting you know I made it to Phoenix safely. That is good. I was just finishing up some work with Mark. Mark is at our house. Yes, we are going over the Easton files. You know how complicated it is. Right. Do not work too hard. I love you. Love you too. Bye. She hung up quickly. I could see them through the living room window, his hand on her back guiding her toward the stairs. I waited 30 minutes, then moved. I still had my key. I slipped in the front door as quietly as possible, the sounds from upstairs turning my stomach. I eased open the hall closet and grabbed my old Louisville Slugger, the bat from high school that Nora always said I should toss. Then I called her parents. Thomas, it is Jack. I need you and Margaret to come to the house now. What is wrong? She is here with him, right now. We are on our way. I waited on the porch. The Whitakers arrived 10 minutes later, Thomas grim-faced, Margaret clutching her purse like a shield. Are you sure? Margaret whispered. Listen, I said. We stood in the cool evening air, and the sounds from the bedroom window were unmistakable. Dear God, Margaret breathed. I unlocked the front door. After you! We climbed the stairs together, 3 people united in anger. The bedroom door was closed, but not locked. I turned the handle and pushed it open. They were so absorbed in each other, they did not notice us at first. Mark wore my bathrobe, the one Nora gave me for Christmas 3 years ago. Nora wore nothing but her grandmother's pearl necklace. Well, well, I said loudly. The Easton contract seems very hands-on. Nora screamed and grabbed the sheet. Mark jumped so fast, he tripped and crashed into my dresser, sending my watches skittering across the floor. Jack! Nora gasped. You are supposed to be in Phoenix. Surprise, I said. I brought guests. That was when she saw her parents behind me. Margaret looked at her daughter with horror and disgust. Thomas looked at Mark with pure rage. "Mom!" Nora said. "Dad, what are you doing here?" "We came to see what kind of woman we raised," Thomas said, voice shaking. "Apparently we failed." Mark hopped around, trying to get into his pants. "Mr. Whitaker, Mrs. Whitaker, this is not what it looks like." "It looks like you are in my robe, in my bed, with my wife," I said. "What should it look like?" "I can explain," Nora said, clutching the sheet. "Please do," I said, leaning against the frame. "I would love to hear how this is a misunderstanding." She opened her mouth, then shut it. "You disgust me," Margaret said quietly. "Both of you. In this house, in this bed where my granddaughter was conceived." That landed. Nora started to cry, but they were not the tears of remorse. They were the tears of someone caught. "Everyone needs to calm down," Mark said, finally yanking his pants up. "We can work this out like adults." "Adults?" I laughed. "Adults do not sneak around. Adults do not sleep with a co-worker's spouse in his bed. Adults do not lie about working late when they are really working under my wife." "Jack, please," Nora said. "Can we talk privately?" "No," I said. "Privacy got us here. From now on, it is public." "No," I said. "From now on, everything is public." Mark tried to push past me toward the door. I blocked his path. "Where do you think you are going, champ?" "I am leaving. This is between you and your wife." "Oh no, you are very much part of this conversation. Sit down." He slumped onto the edge of my bed, still wearing my robe over his hastily pulled-on trousers. The absurdity of it made my jaw tighten. "Here is what will happen," I said, looking at both of them. "First, you will tell Nora's parents exactly how long this has been going on." "Jack, please," Nora whispered. "How long?" Thomas demanded. Nora looked down at her feet. 6 months, she said. 6 months, I repeated. 6 months of late nights, business dinners, and team-building excuses. 6 months of lying to my face every day. "It was not supposed to happen," Mark muttered. "It just developed naturally." "Naturally," Margaret said. "There is nothing natural about adultery, young man." "You do not understand the pressure we are under," Mark said, trying his corporate angle. "Nora and I connect professionally in ways that—" "Shut up," I said. "Just shut up with your corporate buzzwords. You wanted to sleep with my wife, so you did. At least admit it." Thomas stepped forward and fixed his daughter with that look parents give when everything they believed in has been challenged. "Nora, look at me. Your mother and I taught you about commitment, honor, and keeping your word. What happened to those values?" Nora swallowed. "I do not know." I felt trapped, like my life was routine. Mark made me feel alive. "Alive," I repeated. "Let us see how alive you feel when everyone at your office sees the video." Mark went pale. "What video?" "The footage from the cameras I installed 3 weeks ago. They captured everything. High definition and crystal clear audio." "You cannot do that," Nora cried. "It is illegal." "It is my house. I can install cameras. I can share the footage with whoever I choose." "Think about Ella," she pleaded. "Think about our daughter." I was thinking about Ella. I was thinking about what she deserved. A mother who told the truth, not one who brought strangers into our home. "I am not a stranger," Mark protested. "I have been to your barbecues." "Right. You ate my food, drank my beer, and plotted how to seduce my wife. That makes it worse." Margaret stared at her daughter and said, "How could you do this to your family and marriage vows?" "You do not understand what it is like being married to him," Nora shot back, gesturing at me. "He is always working, covered in sawdust, never wants excitement." "So you decided to find excitement elsewhere?" I asked. Thomas shook his head. "We are leaving." "Margaret, come on." "Wait," I said. "There is more." I pulled my phone from my pocket and opened the photo album. I slid a picture across the bed toward Mark. It clearly showed his BMW in my driveway, with the license plate readable. I had been documenting everything: dates, times, how long he stayed, what he brought. "I have 3 weeks of evidence showing a pattern," I said. "I will share it with everyone." "What do you want?" Mark asked. "I want you to understand that your life as you know it may be over. Your girlfriend will find out. Your co-workers will find out. Your CrossFit buddies will find out that Mark Doyle is the kind of man who seduces married women." "You bastard," he spat. "You are the one who slept with someone else's wife," I shot back. Nora stood and wrapped the sheet around herself. "Fine. You want a divorce? You will get one. I will not let you ruin me." "Ruin you?" I laughed. "Adultery is still grounds for a fault divorce in this state. I have evidence. Lots of it." She looked at me, trying to calculate a way out. "Maya is going to hate you for this." "Her name is Ella," I corrected, "and it will not be me she hates. It will be the person who broke our family." I walked to the door. "I am going out. This is still my house for now, but I cannot breathe in here." I went to O'Grady's, and Paul gave me a beer and a listening ear. I told him to let a few people accidentally hear about what happened. He grinned and promised to do the accidental work. Messages buzzed in while I sat at the bar. Mrs. Novak wanted to know if everything was all right. Chris texted threats about his car. Nora asked to talk. Ella texted that Mom was crying and locked in her bedroom. I called Ella and promised we would be okay. When I returned home that night, the living room felt hollow. Ella was waiting on the couch. "Dad, you are scaring me," she said. "We are getting a divorce," I told her. Her face folded. "Why? What did you do?" "I did not do anything." "Who is it?" she asked when I hesitated. "Mark Doyle. You have met him." Ella sat very still. Then she said, "I hate her." "Do not say that. She is still your mother." But she lied. Nora came down and tried to explain. Ella would not listen. She packed a bag and called her grandparents. Margaret arrived and took Ella without looking at Nora. After they left the house felt empty in a way a home never should. Nora and I stood like strangers. She begged, "Help me fix this." "You cannot fix what you chose," I said. I called my lawyer Jim and left a message. That night I reviewed footage and prepared the files I would send. The following morning I spoke with Jim. "You have grounds for a fault divorce," he said. "The cameras in your house are yours. The footage is admissible. I will handle filing. As for Mark, if he was on your property without permission, there may be trespassing." "Can we hurt them at work?" I asked. "Possibly. If their company forbids fraternization and they used work time, they can be disciplined." I called Nora's regional director, Patricia Hale, a strict woman I had met at holiday parties. I told her the truth and offered the footage. She asked me to send it. I spent 2 hours editing a concise presentation with timestamps and photos, proving Mark's car at the house during work hours. I included audio clips where Nora and Mark spoke as if referencing work while in bed together. I emailed it with a full timeline. Patricia called back later and said both Nora and Mark were suspended pending investigation. I felt a clean, brutal satisfaction when Jim called to say they had been fired for violating company policy after HR reviewed the recordings. Word spread in the neighborhood. Mrs. Novak did what she does best and told anyone who asked. Paul at the pub mentioned it to regulars in a way that spread like wildfire. A few days later, Mark stumbled into O'Grady's drunk and angry. He ranted to anyone who would listen that I had ruined him. I waited and let him talk until he started calling me names. The bar quieted. I walked up, grabbed him by the shirt, and pinned him against the counter. I told him he had made his choices and now must face them. He swung at me and missed. He was escorted out. The fallout was clean and sharp. Nora lost her job, our family life ended, and Mark moved back in with his parents. I filed for divorce. Over the next 6 months, the legal machinery churned. I presented the footage and timelines to my lawyer and the court. The judge awarded me the house and primary custody of Ella. Nora received a modest settlement and weekend visitation. She moved out of state with what remained of her savings. Ella moved back in 2 weeks after the final hearing. We ordered pizza and watched old movies like when she was small. She hugged me and said she was proud I had stood up. We rebuilt slowly, with small traditions that belonged to just us. I kept the security system, not out of spite, but as a reminder and guardrail. In time, the sting softened. I focused on my shop and my daughter. I repaired what I could and accepted that some things were permanently altered. The cameras stayed in place. They remained a quiet, watchful presence in our home as I moved forward. I began to think about new projects and a future where betrayal was not a constant shadow. Months later, the divorce was final and the paperwork came through. I kept the house and most assets. Nora had weekend visits and a small sum. Mark was unemployed and living back with his parents. I kept the cameras. That night, alone in the workshop, I poured a small measure of whiskey and set my tools in order. The workbench smelled of glue and pine. I started planning a new table commission and a different life.